All right, good afternoon. So today we're going to continue our calligraphy course. And if you want to join the club here, you can go to this website, Calligraphy for Everyone, and you can register to receive our video courses for free. Um, and you can also register for only $10. You'll have access to our Zoom sessions, so I can give you feedback. But anyways, today we're gonna continue, and I'm going to use this speedball nib and use, of course, this ink bottle. And so I just want to do a demonstration of what you can do with italic calligraphy. It's probably the most versatile script, and you can have a lot of fun. So let me just show you. So italic can be simple, like, very straightforward, like this. Sorry, this cord is in the way. It can be very straightforward, like this. But you can add a lot of flourishes like this. This is really advanced, but you'll get there at some point. So you can see there's a wide range, but first you have to master the basics. And this is what you can aspire to once you master the basic architecture. Now, I want to show you a different size nib. So here you see that this one is shorter, not shorter, but thinner compared to this one. And if we put the two side by side, you can see that this one here is bigger than this one. And just as a review, um, when you use a different size pen, you want to know, like, what is the ideal proportion. So obviously, when I use this one, it's not going to be as big as this size, right? Because this is for this pen. So how do we know? How do we determine the ideal height of a letter, based on the nib size? So what you do, what you do is you draw like 5 pen width. So pen width. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and therefore this is what determines the height of the body of the letter. So this is the body, right? And this is the descender. For letter like P, this is the descender. For letter like H, we talk about ascender. So this is the ascender. Now notice that if I switch to a smaller nib size like this guy, um, we have a different height because it all depends on the nib size, right? So if I use the same height here, you'll see that something is funny, right? Like you can see that it's just too thin. So when I use this smaller nib size, it cannot be that 5 widths. It has to be smaller. So again, I'm gonna draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this turns out to be the ideal height. And you can see that it's much smaller than this height. And so now if I write the letter A, you can see that it's very proportional. There we go. So it doesn't matter what nib size you're using, whether it's small, whether it's big like this one, you can always determine the appropriate height based on the nib size. All right, so now that that's out of the way, let's proceed to some more interesting stuff. I learned calligraphy. I taught myself when I was 12, and that's not a really good idea because it's like the blind leading the blind, like, you need a teacher who's gonna see your mistakes and who's gonna correct you right away. And so when I teach calligraphy, um, I've taught like a lot of people, and I can tell you that most people, they usually make the same mistakes. It's very predictable. Um, so let me just share with you. The first thing to understand about calligraphy is that it's the alternation of width. Okay, so for example, you have something that is thick here, and then you have something that is thin. It's like the Chinese yin and yang, yin being the feminine energy and yang being the masculine energy. So this is the yang, yin, yang, yin, yang, yin, yang, yin, etc. Um, so for example, if I write something like yang here, the effect, the alternation of thick and thin produces the calligraphic effect. This is the yin. Okay. Let me show you what flourishes can do. So instead of just writing yin yang like this, it can be more, how can I put it, more illustrative of the concept. So for example, yang is supposed to stand for strength or masculine energy. So I can use, let's say, um, the Roman alphabet. So I can do like this. So very thick, very masculine. Right, this is the yang. And the yin, yin, yang, yang, yin. Okay, so the yin, I would use a smaller nib, more feminine, like this one, and it would have more flourishes because that's, femininity, it's more delicate. So for the yin, how can I put this? Yeah, the yin can be something like this. Right? So you can see that, you have to choose the correct nib size. For the yang, you're using something thicker, and for the yin, which is more delicate, you're using a smaller nib size, which allows you to create all those flourishes. It would be really funny to create flourishes with this nib size, I think, which is 3 millimeters. This one is more like 1.5 millimeters, so it's thinner. So for flourishes, it's better to use a smaller nib size. So there you go, yang and the yin. Okay, now what if we combine like a larger nib with a thinner nib? Well, that's a good question. Let's explore that. So the white nib is here. So let's say, you know what? I'm gonna write the name of my cousin first degree Penelope. So let's say I write something like this. Now this is fine and good because it's a large nib. But what if I want to use a smaller nib over here in order to add flourishes that will impress the audience? So here, for example, I can add this flourish, right? And the L here, I can start here. It really feels amazing when you're doing those flourishes. I feel like I'm a figure skater. Um, so there you go. So, just using the thick nib is fine, but when you add those flourishes, I mean, that's when it becomes truly special. Like even this one, right? It's very cool. I apologize for this ink smearing. It's because this paper is just too thin. I should have used a thicker paper that doesn't absorb the ink. But anyways, you get the point, right? You can use like two different nib sizes, big one and small one, to create more contrast. Because already we have a contrast, like within a letter, we have like, the thick here and the thin over here. But here it's we're adding more contrast by using like a very thin nib here. And I think those flourishes make all the difference, especially for the name of a girl like Penelope. And of course, we don't want any jealousy, so we have to we have to do the name for her little sister, which is Delphine. Very nice name, by the way. So again, I'm gonna use my thick, my large nib over here. And I'm gonna write Delphine. There you go. Now we're going to use the smaller nib to add the breathtaking flourishes. So for the P here, now watch this. It feels amazing when you do it, you know? There you go. And we can add something special here. There you go. You know, like I said, the flourishes make all the difference. It adds some kind of elegance and sophistication to a name, especially a girl's name. I wouldn't put those flourishes if it was a guy's name. It looks funny. But you know, speaking of guy's name, um, I have another cousin first degree, so his name is Alexander. So I'm gonna use that as an example for writing with flourishes. I mean, flourishes can be used for men as well, you know, because it's just a sign of sophistication. So so Alexander can have something like this. I write without lines, but it's not recommended. You know, when you practice, you should write on paper that has blue lines. Um, all right, so now I'm gonna use the smaller nib to add some fancy flourishes to this name. In particular, the ascender over here. There you go. Now, the difficulty here is that it's not like Penelope that has a descender. Here, we don't have any descender. We just have like an ascender. But I made a mistake because the way that I wrote the D here, it doesn't really lend itself to a flourish. This is more like a definite ascender. So let me redo this name so that it gives me more leeway, more freedom to add the subsequent flourishes. So we're going to redo the name. Okay, so let me see. This is okay. Okay, the L is okay. The E is fine. The X. Okay, let me see. Okay, so you see like here, the X usually doesn't have an ascender, but I'm going to make sure that it does have. So I'm going to do the X in a different way. I'm going to do it this way. Whoops. This is not good, but anyways, let's continue. Now the D, check this. Um, I have to do it like this. So see, like this pointed end, it allows me to do a flourish later on. And the E and the R. Okay, so now the scene is set up for adding some fancy flourishes. Okay, um, so first of all, you see here the artificial descender here can be used to, I don't know if I can, well, you know what, let's just do it like this. See, like I wouldn't have been able to do this with this X here. Well, maybe I can, but anyways, this X, gives me the descender that I need, and the ascender here can be like this, right? Um, we have another ascender over here, the A here. It's a lot of fun, and even the like that. So now, obviously, this is more fancy than this one because I created an opportunity for the X to have a descender, although normally the X doesn't have a descender. All right, this is pretty good. Of course, we want to do the name for Lucas and Eric, the two brothers of Alexander. So Lucas is a shorter name than Alexander, so we have to strategize a little bit. It's a great name. Um, so the L is like this. Now, the interesting thing about the name Lucas is that the S gives me a lot of leeway. So instead of doing an ordinary S, because the S is at the end of the name, we can do something really fancy like this. Okay. Now we can switch to a smaller nib and execute some flourish like this. So like this flourish adds, a very interesting, exciting touch to the last letter. And even here, we can add something like that. And the U here, we can extend it like this. So you can see the power of, flourishes. Don't worry about the smudges here. I'm going to redo it, because this is very thin paper. But the great thing about this paper is that it's semi-glossy, right? So it allows my pen to glide more easily. Okay, Eric. I have to do Eric, his brother. And again, Eric is a shorter name than Lucas. So we have to maximize each letter, so to speak. So I think what I'm going to do is use the Roman alphabet, where each letter really stands on its own. So it's a good opportunity because normally, like Roman capitals do not have flourishes, but we're going to innovate today. Um, so Eric's like this. This is not really the traditional Roman capitals. I'm just improvising here. Okay, so this is Eric, and of course we want to add those flourishes. So maybe something like this. Interesting, right? This is very interesting. And aside from that, I don't know what else I can do. Um, like, there's not much leeway. Now, what if we try to write Eric not in Roman capitals, but in ordinary italic, like Lucas? Well, let's see what we can do. This is a lot of fun, like I've been doing calligraphy like for over 30 years since I was a kid, um, when I was 12, and it's such an easy skill to pick up. I think that, all high school students should have the opportunity to learn calligraphy. And these days, like with Zoom and the internet and YouTube, it's easier than ever for me to teach kids. That's one of my passions in life because calligraphy has made such a big impact in my life. I just want to introduce kids to the art of beautiful writing. All right, so let's say we write Eric normally by using italic like this. You see, like it's a beautiful name, but it's just short and there's not much leeway for fancy flourishes. So what can I do? Let me think. Okay, so I can do the E in a way that liberates the ending here. So let me see. I'm just improvising here, guys, okay? And like this. And the R is a good candidate. Let me see. Like this, okay? The I, not much to do with it. Nothing much we can do. And the C also. Nothing much we can do. Okay, so now let me try to add some flourishes. But you can see that my hunch was probably correct. Like for a name like Eric that is short, it's probably best to use Roman capitals because each letter would stand on its own. So here maybe something like this, right? And the R here, I paved the way for maybe something like this. Like this is not a normal R, right? Like the normal R ends here, but I decided to extend it like that. Um, what bothers me is that the C here, it ends in a rather flat manner. Like the first letter and the last letters are usually very important. Um, and what if we write Eric using Gothic? So let me try. Gothic is very different. It's like Roman in the sense that it's very architectural, very structural, but maybe we can add flourishes. So let me see. So Gothic Eric would look like this. It's very, well, Gothic. It's very Gothic. Um, so I don't know. What can we do with this? You know, I this name is ultra short. Um, hmm. I want to add some pizzazz, to a name, like Delphine. You can see that it has some pizzazz, like you look at this and wow, you can actually feel the flourishes. So let's persevere. What can we do with Eric um, to add some pizzazz? The R here is not bad, but there's something missing. Like this line is just too thin. I don't like it. So let's try Eric again. Um, yeah, let's try with Roman capitals. Yeah, Roman capitals for Eric. I think that's the best bet, by the way. So you can see that depending on the length of a name, you probably want to choose a script that maximizes the aesthetic potential. All right, so Eric in capital letters. Wow, yeah, very nice. Okay, um, so let's do something with the flourishes. Eric is a difficult client, but I like the name Eric. Also the name of my cousin. Okay, so let's add some flourishes. So here, I see an opportunity here. So what if I elongate like this, right? It's very nice. And of course, this R presents me with an opportunity. Wow, like this. Ah, very nice. You see the nice ending here? This is very nice. It feels very good when I did it. Um, yeah, I think this is pretty good. Like the Eric that we did before uh, is not as good. And let me show you why. Because you can see that from, whoops. I mean, the flourish is everything. So if we compare the two here, we can see that this flourish is much better because it has a very nice ending. The ending is thicker, right? And also like the loop here is big enough. This loop is just a little bit too small. And the nice hook here is much nicer than the small hook over here. So this is nice. This is nice. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, this is very well executed. I'm going to sell it to Eric for 10 bucks. uh, okay, guys. So that's it. That's my session today. I just wanted to honor the names of my five uh, cousins first degree. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for watching.